You can follow me on any of the listed social media, and you can read my manga over on Pixiv. If you'd like to support me, then please consider subbing to my Patreon. Thank you. Alright, we are back. Today we are going to finish Dehya. Should be able to get it done. We pretty much just have the gold, some of the hair, some of the eyes, stuff like that. So, nothing too crazy. Should be able to get it done within a reasonable amount of time. So, for the hair, I think I already made like a hair rendering video. And again, I've been mentioning quite often throughout this series that I am going to change the way that I'm doing the hair and stuff here in the near future. But for now, we're just going to stick with our rather simple, repeatable sort of method. But just be on the lookout, because I am practicing different techniques and methods for the hair right now, and I've got one that I'm working on that I really like, so that will probably be implemented soon. And I am still coughing, even though it's taken me like an entire week to record this thank-end series. A week later, and I'm still coughing. So, again, I apologize. Please just bear with me. I'll do my best not to just hack into the microphone. But right now, I'm just using a darker color and just kind of scratching it in. I kind of want to follow the sort of grain of the hair, just to help show the sort of lines and the way that her hair is trying to lay. So now I just kind of, I don't want to make the whole thing soft, but just some of these little edges I like to just blend in a little bit. So I have some hard lines, some softer ones. Then I'll use my soft eraser and just kind of gently soften some of these areas here so they're not quite as extreme. And then what we can do is go ahead and add in a lighter area. And again, just kind of scratching it in. I'm just going to kind of follow along here, like so. And we do have to add like some yellow highlights. So yeah, she's got some parts of her hair is dyed. Do that. And then I think I'll add just a little bit here, just to these tips. Like that. Okay. And then same thing, just kind of soften some of these lines here. And still just trying to match the flow of the hair. So kind of need these to wrap around her head. These ones kind of need to come off with her, the angle of the hair here. Then I'll soften up parts of this. And then before we continue, we'll go ahead and get this yellow in. So it looks like it's pretty much the same color as the ears here. We're going to blend it probably a little bit more than this one. I mean, it's like, it kind of fades off at the end, but it's not super blended. It's a little bit more distinct. So what we'll do is we'll add it, but then we'll kind of blend it. So for starters though, do something like this. This little piece here, wrapped all the way up. Do something like this. There we go. And then looks like this little tiny piece here has a little yellow in it, so we'll add that. Okay, so now what I will do is I kind of want to give these, again, some of these I want to have a more defined, sharp edge. and then others I want to just kind of airbrush and blend. So but first I'm going to kind of etch into this with a pressure eraser here, so I can kind of not only get some of the edges I want, but I can also make a little bit more interesting shapes in here instead of just kind of an airbrush, you know. Okay, something like that. Then I can take a soft eraser and just ever so slightly do something like that. Oh yeah, I need my pressure eraser down here. Give some of these a little bit more of a defined edge. There we go. Okay. Alright, so got the yellow. So now I guess what we can do is just above it, we'll grab this kind of darker color and go with a small pressure airbrush. And again, just kind of sketch in some little marks like that, just to kind of add a little bit of that hair texture. And again, break up some of the yellow. And yeah, you could keep it closer to the actual character design and have it a little bit more definitive sort of yellow, but I don't know, I kind of like breaking it out, kind of blending it in just a little bit more. There we go. And then from there, let's go ahead. I like to grab our darkest color, darken it a little bit more. Then I come to a hard shadow brush. So it's just a hard airbrush. And then I like to just, in some of these areas here, draw in some little lines to indicate like little strands of hair. Just like this. Don't need to go overboard, but right now with this style of rendering, just the little tiny details that I like adding. And again, we kind of want to follow the hair here. So I don't want them just straight up and down like this, you know. I kind of want to figure out what the direction of this hair is laying and kind of follow it. It'll just help express that the hair is laying over a head. Now this isn't just a flat 2D image, right? It tries to add some volume to her and helps imply that it's not merely a 2D image, even though it obviously is. But by adding little things like this to help express volume and space under the hair, it can help show that it's not just flat. There we go. A little bit right here. And then in these lighter spots, I just soften it just a little bit. Just because since it's, you know, a rather dark sort of color, in light areas like that, it's a little more visible. So we can just shade it out just a little bit. And then add just a little bit of a shine here. And I'm not going to go overboard here. Just add a little bit. Now I use a large eraser, my soft one, and just away from our light source, kind of fade it out. Something like that. Okay, so now we can shade with with our multiply layer. I'll just use this fire brush. It's just this soft airbrush that I then just max out the hardness and brush density. Do this. I know I also got the idea for this brush from a YouTube channel, but I do not recall which one. So I might have to look into that. I am going to eventually do like a video to show like my custom brushes, because I do have some brushes that are my own, and then some that I found online that people walked you through how to make or just allowed you to download. So I would like to show some of those, and in that one I'll definitely figure out where I got this one. So I know it's a channel I'm subscribed to, I just haven't seen them in a while. So again, we're being quite generous with our shadows here, and that's okay, because we're gonna come through and kind of fight these back a little bit. Right here though, I'll just go ahead and draw a line like so, and then same with over here. Oops, what's going on here? Oh yeah, that's its own thing. Okay, forgot that that was its own little layer. And then we'll add a little bit here. So now I'm going to take that soft pressure eraser here and just kind of fight back some of these shadows so they're not so extreme over here. And again, they can kind of have some of that same sort of hair texture look to them, so I'm going to have these little points sticking out. Do that. There. And I just want to not completely get rid of this shadow, but really diminish it, like so, around this edge. And then make it real small so I can come in here and get rid of this. There we go, and then I can grab in here and make that part really dark. Then I'll add just a little bit of a hard shadow here, because this is like a little flippy piece of hair that's laying back. So I'll add that. A little shadow there. A little tiny one here. And then should add kind of generous one. Oops. Kind of generous one right here. Like so. Try not to go past my lines though. There we go. Okay. So now, come in here, harden that. Now I should be able to soften up some of this with my brush. There we go. And then if we wanted to, we could even try just slightly darkening the back of the head here, just to show that it's, you know, away from our light source. We'll just do something like that. And then lower its opacity. It doesn't need to be extreme, but it can help show that. And then kind of come in here and soften up some of the areas like on the ear and on this part of the hair that doesn't really need to be shaded, like so. There we go. Okay. So, looking over this, just kind of seeing what's going on. We could make the yellow part here a little more interesting by adding a very slight gradient to it, so we could have a, you know, a lighter color here. So I think that's what we'll do. We'll see, and if it doesn't look right, then we'll just get rid of it. It's no big deal. But right now it's just kind of a bland yellow color. Kind of want to break it up with something, you know. So we'll try. Do that. we go. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. So I think we'll go with that. Just for now, makes it a little bit more interesting. Okay, then we can figure out these parts, the hair. So first of all, I'll just grab the new sort of, you can almost think of it like the new base color for the darker parts of the hair over here. And just catch that like so. Don't need to really do that on the other side though. And then, let's see. So I'm trying to just match, so like I've got shadow, kind of like this, I guess not shadow, but this dark part of the hair coming through here. So it would catch these little flips here. So I'm gonna use a darker color here. Do this, and I'm just gonna add that on this side of the head. Do this. And then really we can just, there shouldn't be any like lighter textures, any lighter textures, so I'll just go with that darker color again with a small hard brush here, hard airbrush. Add that, and then we can go ahead with a multiply layer and just give a generous shadow right here, like so. And then same with here, we can give a generous shadow since all this is really just out of the light here. Same with this little guy. Uh-oh. Program. What the heck is going on? Okay, there we go. I don't know why. For some reason it was acting like my my mouse stopped interacting with clip, so then it just wasn't zooming out. Okay. I don't know why that happened, but we're gonna move on and hopefully it doesn't happen again. Okay. There we go. So now these, again, it's like, I don't know, because they're not actual ears, I think it's just like an ornament of some sort, but it's a different color than the gold, so, and it's not textured the same. So we're just gonna go off of what we've got in the reference image and just kind of give this a basic shading, because I honestly don't really know what this material is. Maybe in her story quest it kind of helps to explain why she kind of styles her hair like this, but, or, you know, what's going on here, but we'll just do this for now. Just kind of catch this top part here where a little bit more of the light is hitting. Do this. It's okay to go over because we'll fight it back a bit. There we go. And then we can grab shadow and just follow this hairline a little bit. And remember that this ear thing is behind our hair, so the hair is going to be casting a shadow to it, so it's not going to just only be like right up along the edge of it. And this one, because the angle of the light, it's not going to have quite the same level of a shadow, so we'll just have a little one there, a little one up here in the tip. And we probably have kind of a similar thing like that. Then we can soften this. And then I'll just call that good for now. I might try to texture it or whatever later, but again, I don't really know what material this is, so I don't really want to go hog wild on it right now and ruin it. And then we can add a little multiply layer. So for this, I'm just going to go with a really dark gray. Do that. And then soften it. There we go. So it might not be the most visible when you zoom out and stuff, but it's at least a little detail that is there. Helps it be a little bit more realistic. So before we go ahead and start on the gold and the jewelry, because that is going to be quite the project, I'm just going to immediately come up here and just finish the eyes. So using that same gray color, just do that. And then this is all on a multiply layer. And okay, I thought that they are on the same one. So what's going on? Oh, it's not multiply, that's why. There we go. It was supposed to be a multiply layer, so I was very confused when that was not showing through. We'll do that. Oh yeah, I totally forgot. For this, we need to add a multiply layer here and have a relatively large shadow going through like this. Perfect. Okay, back to the eyes. So for this, now I'll just soften this. And this is basically just the shadow coming off from our like eyelashes. And now for the eyes, we're going to start with just a super dark color on kind of a large airbrush and establish like a gradient here. So getting darker near the eyelids. Do this, and then I like to just go with a super blue color here just to really make the eyes pop. And now we'll just take this brush here, go really dark, and just further accentuate this sort of gradient here like this. And now her eyes are pretty much a crystal blue. So we're going to come up in here, grab this color, and then we're just going to mess with it till we get the overall look that we want. So I'm just going to do this, just adding in that streak of light. Kind of fade it out a little bit near these edges, like so. And then again go with a super light color here for sort of light spots within the eye. And we will soften this a little bit, but it's a little too big. So I think I liked this little spot here, and then we'll just kind of have a big one like that. Do that. Fade this. Like so. And then we can add some little pops of color here with a hard shadow. Just add like a little yellow, just to add a little bit of light to the eye, and kind of fade it out. And then I think what I'll do is add a multiply layer to add the actual shadow from our eyelid here. Soften it a bit. And then under that, we'll add a new layer with a color dodge, and just grab our light color here, and just add a little tiny bit of color here with it, just to help saturate that blue color. There we go. And then just kind of looking over what we did, seeing if there can be any changes here, because we could lower the opacity just a touch on this super bright blue, then leave that the way it is. Do that. So yeah, there we go. So yeah, we started with that like blue base, and you can only barely see it poking through, but we ended up getting to that super light crystal blue color that she pretty much has in the original. So her eyes are a little less this like super crystal blue. They're a little bit more towards a regular blue color, but I really wanted to give her super bright sort of crystal blue eyes. So that is what we did. And now we can go ahead and start on the gold, which is going to be an undertaking. So hopefully it didn't take too long. But I gotta take a sip of coffee here. Okay, my coaster is stuck to the glass. That was scary. There we go. If you don't moan after the coffee sip, you're not drinking coffee properly. So now we're done and it's time to lock back in. Grab a dark color here and then go from there. So first we can add, and again, kind of, you know, flicking on and off the visibility so I even know what I'm working with here on this layer. So I'm going to start by just kind of adding in our actual shadow. And we'll fight this back a little bit, but really I'm trying to imagine these as like plates, you know? So even though these aren't like extremely different from this other plate here, it's just this little side here that's aimed away from the light source isn't going to be catching as much as these ones. So we don't want to go overboard, obviously, so we'll kind of fight it back just a little bit. But we do want to show that these things are kind of angled away from each other. So some of these areas will be a little bit darker and others will be a touch lighter. Like all these areas that are here will just darken. Now we're still going to add like a light, sort of like a gloss to them. They're just not going to be as bright as some of our other pieces. So do that. And then same with her claws. Her pinky one will be kind of out of the way. But then these ones will be just slightly shaded. Like this, just kind of where they're away from the light. Do the same for the thumb. And then again, just kind of flick it on and off, see what I'm missing. So this can be darkened. This whole thing can be darkened. This thing can basically be darkened all the way. This one will, though. And then again, just kind of fight the shadows back. They need to. And check our progress. Kind of add in a light there. Grab my shadow again. And add it here. And around our chin area. There we go. Okay, then it looks like it's this plate. So again, just these little sort of faces that are away from the light, I'll just completely shade in for now. Like so. Okay. So now what I like to do is just go with a really bright color for areas of the gold that are in the light, because they're going to be really reflecting it. So they're going to be nice and bright. Okay, and I now realize that I did not shade this one. So I'll do this. Like so. We'll have just little tiny bits down here that are catching it. Same with this. And again, really just kind of mess with it to get the overall look that you want. Right now we're just kind of establishing the new sort of base color. So we're going to add a, shine to this. Add like a highlight, as well as some like actual hard shadows. But for now, just want to get this in. Just have the tiniest bit of light catching that one. And then same here. And I do see that the shadow under her needs some work. So I guess there's a little spot here missing, but I'm going to get these gold parts taken care of first. Okay, so, and then here, we want to go with a relatively large airbrush for this big piece. Just brighten it up all the way over here. And then I'll use my soft pressure brush, or eraser, kind of fight this back. There we go. Kind of bring this up into the shadows here. Get that whole little piece here. Doesn't really need to have the craziest of lighting on this little spot. I'll just make the whole thing bright. So I'll do that. Okay, so oh yes, this looks like this shoe is also on this layer, this part of it. So we'll do this. Grab this dark color again. There we go. Add that here, and then I'll just come back on this and erase. There we go. Okay, so now let's go ahead. Oops. Let's go ahead and add our highlight. So we'll come all the way up to like this kind of off-white color, and just kind of following the same direction here across our plates. Remembering that they do have different heights relative to one another, so they're not going to be exactly the same. You know, like something like this is well above this plate. So we want it to be the same, but we don't want to just completely try and, like, instead of bringing it up here, like that wouldn't be realistic. Because this face is angled different. So do this. And again, I'm trying to follow the face of the plate as well. So that's why this light is angled this way, and then this one down here is angled this way. So they're not the same, so it's not doing this with them. Because you can just tell right away, like that just looks wrong. So we're going to catch it like that. And then same with here, add a little bit of this highlight. We won't go too crazy with it on that part of the belt. Add a little bit there. And again, using a brush like this, where the harder you press, it'll make a more definitive edge, is nice, because then you can get that nice sort of, that nice look where some of it is kind of airbrushy looking, and then other parts are a little bit more defined with a harder edge, and that can kind of just add a nice breakup of a monotonous flow. Makes it look a lot nicer and makes it look a little more realistic too. We're going to do that here, and again, I'm not trying to overwork it here. I know in the past I've been guilty of that. So I still want this to look like it's got a shine. But if you're not careful, you can find yourself going way too far with it, and then it looks kind of loud. I don't really want that. I don't want the shine of this to take away from the rest of her. So we're trying to add just a little highlight here. Like so. And then this one I'm just kind of adding on the highest point to this claw. Should be like right here in the center. Doing something like that. Same here. Not gonna get too bright with this one because it's kind of getting out of the light. So we'll do that. And then here, same idea. We'll really polish this one, like so. And then because this plate is just slightly under it, we'll go ahead, keeping the same angle, but we'll just offset it. So instead of just following that line straight down, or like following this one straight down, we'll just move them off to the side ever so slightly. And then right here at the very tip, the highest point, I'll add a little bit of shine here too, like so. And we could probably add just a little touch of it. Again, if we need to just undo this part, that's fine. I don't want to overdo this and make it look random, but I also want to make sure that this plate is looking shiny. So kind of soften some of that. So we'll go with that for now. I might come back and rework that little section here. We'll see, because you could make a case for having a bright spot like that. In fact, I might actually just keep that. So, oops, I think I'll soften it just a little bit. But yeah, I like that. Because I want this plate, it's really big and it's really catching a lot of light, so we'll do that. We'll add a slight bit of that here too, just in the parts of the gold that are just most affected by the light. We'll add that. And then here we'll add just a little bit of shine. I don't want to go too crazy on this one, because these are a little bit smaller, a little bit more out of the way. Do that. And then again, I'm going to flick this on and off so I can look and make sure that I got everything I wanted. Because see, I can already see that this little part here, I did not shade at all. Completely missed it. So we'll do the same thing that we've been doing, like so. Grab our lighter color, just kind of hit this whole thing right here, and then we'll grab our super light sort of highlight and just kind of write down it, brighten it up. There we go. So now we can do our hard shadow, which again, I'll grab this darkest section here. Alright, so do that. And then, let's see, so I think I want to use a hard shadow here. So I'm going to start with the hard shadow, and then what we'll do is we'll use an airbrush to kind of soften up some of the parts of it. Right now that seems a bit easier, especially because some of these are close to one another. I don't really want to excuse me, I don't really want to have to deal with the amount of work it would take if I just was coming through here with an airbrush doing stuff. I just would rather use a definitive line and then soften it a bit. So I'm going to make this whole like pinky thing in the shadow, except for that little tiny part that's catching the light. So we'll do this, like so. And then this other finger here, this middle finger, is kind of casting a shadow here. So we'll just show that. And for these, since they're kind of sharp and angular, I want to use sharp, angular lines for my shadows. I don't want to get too soft with it. So do that. This one might have the tiniest of shadows being cast from this one, but not by a lot. And this finger is kind of angled a little bit, so we'll have a little bit larger of a shadow here. And then thumb, kind of the same idea. It's not going to have a crazy shadow. And then we can go through, soften some of this, especially here on the pinky around that light source. Just do that. And then grab this plate. So I will just make this entire plate here shaded. Like so. Grab this edge. This whole thing back here can get shaded. And then just do the same here. Because again, these are kind of off behind her where there's not a bunch of light anyways. So we're not going to have too many sections like this that are more so in the light where the whole thing is shaded on one edge, you know. But over here we can. Then I'll just barely soften that. And then same with here. We'll have a fair bit here in the shadow. Like so. We'll add all that in the shadow, and then we'll lighten this a little. Well, before we lighten it, we can actually come in with our airbrush, and we'll just add this spot here to be a little airbrushed in. There we go. Just to give it a nice little texture. And then we can come up here. So this whole plate here is just completely hidden, so we'll do that. But then this is not completely out of the light. So we'll just do this. And again, kind of following the angle of the plate here. And then have a slightly cast shadow from the hair here. And keeping in mind, it's going to kind of change the direction, or I guess the angle, when it encounters this plate, because the plate's angled differently. So it'll just change it up just a little bit. And this shadow is cast from her chin, so we'll do that. And then we'll grab this whole side here, and then on this one we'll kind of fade it out. And then again, her chin is casting a shadow here, so we'll catch that. Like so, keeping in mind the angle of our plate. And then this hair is casting a shadow, so it's going to be a little bit bigger than if it were just laying right on it. Perfect example of that is this. Since her shirt thing is laying right over it, we don't need a huge cast shadow from it. We just need a little one. So we can do that. Then I'll come through with my fire brush here, my little pressure sensitive airbrush, and just kind of soften up some of these definitive hard edges. Just to break it up. There we go. And I'll do the same over here. Like so. Maybe the tiniest of touch right here as well. There we go. And again, it's like you can take as much time as you need to do little detail works like that. They do go a long way. You know, they're going to be relatively unnoticed to the untrained eye, or people who are just not really looking in that, you know, that hard at it. You know, they're not really too focused on the gold or whatever, but they do go a long way. They certainly improve the quality. So it's worth testing out and trying to figure out your own rendering methods, the way you like doing things. Obviously, it's good to watch tutorials and see how other people are doing it. You can certainly learn a lot of good things that way. You can implement them in your own art in unique ways, but it is nice too just to kind of mess around and try to find a style to do some of this that you like, or at least like an order of operations that you like. You can really make it your own. You can make your art stand out as being a little bit more unique. And then for this, we'll again kind of follow these plates here. And then bring this one down a little bit more. Then we've got a cast shadow. we'll do this. So this shadow is going to be a little bit bigger. And then this one's just going to have a tiny shadow here. It's not going to be anything extreme. And same with this one. This one will have a moderately sized shadow there. Cast shadow here. This cast shadow will kind of taper off because the boot gets closer to it. And then we'll have a large shadow right here, followed by another one right here at a slightly different angle. There we go. Okay. So now I'll just paint bucket that. And then so an angle like this, you know, with these bigger shadows here, these are really great to kind of break up in chunks with the airbrush. Otherwise they just look kind of jarring. You know, it's just a sharp line and it just looks odd. So again, we want some parts to still be nice and defined, but then we want other areas to just kind of fade into this airbrush, like so. And then I'll leave most of this hard line intact. Just do that. Okay, and then we can come through with our softening eraser and just soften some of these parts here. Because again, we don't want there to be absolutely crazy shadows here where there's still going to be some light hitting it. It's okay to have some really dark shadows where there's just nothing, you know, like where her chest is casting this shadow, we can have these be pretty dark and that's fine. But we'll kind of soften up some of these other ones. Something like that. Then again, I'll flick this on and off. Okay, again, I completely missed this section here. And that's bound to happen, especially if you're working on a character as detailed as this. There's just a lot going on. There's a lot of little things. It's easy to miss. So really just before you move on and do other things, just really check your work, check your layer, make sure that you didn't miss anything, because it can be easy to overlook little details like this. So again, we'll grab our bright section here. And a lot of this is just in the light, so this one's relatively simple. It's just something like that gets the job done. So again, just flick this. These need to have a multiply layer added, like so. Same with this. There we go. Alright, so now, again, just flick this, make sure I'm not missing anything. Doesn't look like I am, so we will move on. Looks like the earrings, some more of these knee pads. Looks like we can finish the knee pads. Or I guess whatever these are, it's just... yeah, so we can finish these. Take another sip of my coffee. Alright, so for this, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to immediately, for this part angled away, we're not going to keep it all the same color, obviously, but we're just going to start by keeping the entire thing dark. And then basically we're just going to match what we did earlier. But for this one, we'll just keep this whole section dark, and then we'll kind of brighten it as needed. But first, we'll go off and work on some other things too, because I want to just kind of keep this same color. Because you could, if you wanted, you could just stay here at this boot and just finish that and then move on. And I've done that in the past too, and it can work just fine. But I definitely like just using the exact same sort of color. So if I'm using this shadow here, I like just knowing and not having to go color drop and try to find it again. It's nice to just keep this consistent shadow. That way nothing looks like shockingly different. And we'll add a generous shadow here. It's what we're gonna fight it back with the base color, but I would rather have more shadow to push back than just not really enough and have to come back to this layer to add more. And then this one, we don't actually need a ton, but I just want to, again, add enough to work with, like so. And same with these earrings. And is that it for this layer? Okay, it is. All right, easy enough. So I will just grab this color, our little base color, kind of fight back this shadow like this, kind of keeping that rounded edge. Same with this, and then here. Now we'll even fight a little bit right here, and I'm gonna have to add that pyro symbol there at some point. I keep forgetting, even though I think for at the end of the last like 3 parts, I said, yeah, I'll just do that real quick, just off camera, and then I've forgotten every single time. Oh well. It will hopefully be there when I upload this. Alright, so now what we'll do is just barely add in right where our gold is at its brightest. We'll barely add in this base color. So we're not going to overdo this part here, just because the face of this plate is going to be a little bit out of the light, and so what I want to do is just show that where the gold is at its absolute brightest is really the only places that's going to really catch that light. And then grab this, so now we can add our super bright layer. Add that here, and again, this is just kind of our little base to work off of. So again, I'm just lightly brightening those areas, not gonna do anything too extreme. This we can lighten nicely though. Same with here. So we'll brighten this up, and then come over here, and with a relatively large airbrush, we can add our light here. Same with these parts right here. Add just a little bit here where this part comes up the most, and then you can add large airbrush right here, like so. We'll just do this for now, kind of catch this entire area, just like that. Then I need to do this part here, just where it's closest to the light. We'll just have a nice bright color, and then this earring will be catching just a little bit, and this one's pretty much just in the light, so we'll do that. Okay, so from there we can go ahead and add our super bright color. So again, I don't want to overdo the gloss here. On some of these larger plates, we can get a little bit more of a shine going, just because there's a lot more area to work with. And then here, because these are pretty much on the same plane, I'll basically just follow that line and add like a little tiny detail line there, just like that. And then again, a little bit of gloss here, a little bit of shine here, tiny bit there, a little bit on this edge, just like that. And again, just kind of mess with it. You can go with as much gloss or as little as you like, you know, whatever looks good to you. You definitely don't want to go overboard and make it jarring, but at the same time, I am all for just kind of messing with it, finding what you like. It's good to just toy around with it and figure out how much or how little you like, because even if your current project doesn't end up being exactly what you want, or you feel like you could do things that are better, it just means that in your next project you can implement those changes and you can improve. Because you should, if you're trying to get better at art, you should definitely look back at your previous works, with a critical eye and try to figure out what you would do differently, today that could improve upon them. Even with your pieces that you felt like are the best you've ever done, it's really good to go back, look at them, and try to figure out objectively, like, what would you do with your techniques now to improve upon that. So now for these ones, again, just adding the tiniest bit of that gloss, but I'm not trying to overdo it here. So I'm trying to match this, like so, keeping in mind the change of angle in the plate, but I don't want to overdo it because this plate is facing away from the light, so it's just going to have a slightly different look to it. So we'll do that. And then, oh yes, this little section here can have a lot. Same here. I think that's it for the gloss. So now we can go ahead with our hard shadows. So I will keep this section here that's out of the light. Do something like this. And again, we'll come back in with our little airbrush to add some more details. Do this. Have a little bit of cast shadows from the claw armor things. Do this, like so. And let's see, so have a little bit of shadow here, a little bit here, kind of keeping in mind that this is a bit higher than this base boot, and so because of that, like, this shadow is going to go past it a little bit, but then this one's going to kind of come up. So we just want to make sure, we just want to remember that this material here is at a different level than the material right under it. So we don't want it to just completely match. Sorry. Again, I'm excited for this stupid cough to just go away. It's so frustrating when I'm just trying to say something insanely basic and simple that I don't want to just jump over to pause my recording so I can cough along up, but it's just so dumb. So I will feel completely fine, be like, alright, I can talk, no issue, and then as soon as I open my mouth, it's like, oh, I've got to cough really bad now. It also is funny because I'm pretty sure the past two, like, I think this time and then the literal last time I sat down to record tutorials, it was just the same situation. I had planned time, set it aside to record them, and then I got sick. And not really in a position in life right now to just push these off until I'm feeling better and doing that. So I kind of just have to get these done now. So, pretty frustrating. Hopefully the quality isn't so bad that it's unwatchable, but hopefully next time I sit down to record some tutorials, I just won't be sick. Because so far, we're just 2 for 2, and that is not fun. Alright, so now we'll add these. And again, keeping in mind our planes here. Do this, angle it. And then same here, we'll kind of angle this. And we'll kind of follow our little hard lines here. And angle this down a bit. Like so. Capture that. And again, this is a cast shadow, so it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit bigger. But follow the face like that. And then same here, angle this back a bit, angle this up a bit. Just following the angle of our face there. Have a little shadow here. This one's close to the boot, so it doesn't need to be extreme. Take a look at our work. Looks like we did it. So now we just need to grab this airbrush here and just in some of these areas just kind of break it up a little bit. Just adds a nice little level of detail. And then same with here. I'll add a little tiny bit here. And I will admit, I'm sure that there's an actual method or logic to where you could apply the airbrush strokes to kind of break it up. Like maybe closer to the light sources, you could add it in and it would like kind of fade nicer. I'm sure there's a logic to it. I, just being completely honest with you, I just kind of, where I intuit it would look nice, I put that there. So if you want to go into the weeds on it and try to figure out exactly where these little breakpoints will be, go for it. It will do nothing but improve your art. But for me, I am fine with just where I think it looks nice, I'll add it. So I'll add just a little bit here. And then do this. And then I don't think I'm going to break up that line or that one. Although I will break up this one a little bit because I think that would look cool. Let's do that. And then kind of break this one up. Just trying to match because like some of these areas where the plate above it was broken up, then it can be nice to just kind of break it up here as well so it kind of blends nicely. Okay, is that everything for this? I guess the earrings. We could probably break up this line a little bit, but then I'd say that's good. I don't want to overdo it. So we'll come back through here, kind of soften up some of this, like so. There we go. I guess I didn't break up any of that, but honestly, it looks fine. Again, I want there to be a good mix of hard, definitive shadows, and then some sections where it's just broken up a little bit. I don't want there to just be a bunch of one or a bunch of the other. I want there to be a good mix. Okay, so let's see here. Now we're on to these ones. Shoot, I think I already grabbed my darker color. Oh well, try that again. Okay, so I'm just gonna... Okay, I had my eraser out again. I was just like, why is this not doing anything? Okay, so again, we'll just... Yeah, a lot of this is just gonna be repetitious. Like, obviously we're working on different parts, but same material. So it's just with the same material, it's just gonna be the same logic behind it, so... We're just basically repeating everything we've been doing, just in different spots, but luckily we are almost done. This is, unfortunately, this is turning into the longest part of the entire series, but it's okay, it's almost done. Hopefully there's people out there who find it interesting. There we go. I will admit, I was a little bit in over my head. I thought I could just bust these out in a reasonable amount of time, but it's just taking so much longer than I thought it was going to get these done. So it's just like the video length is going to make it pretty tough for people to really be interested in, but on top of that, it's just kind of tough to think of meaningful things to say while you're working on stuff. So I just end up just kind of talking to fill space, which I don't think really makes great videos, but like I said in the last part, I'm going to start just recording some of my video game sessions just to basically practice, just filling empty space with meaningful thoughts and words and stuff like that, just so I am hopefully just don't come off as rambling and, you know, wasting people's time or anything, but it all takes practice, and the way that I've been doing these tutorials and stuff, I just basically make a backlog I'd say like every couple of months. Not really for the tutorials in a while because I was finishing my the manga I was working on, which you can read over on Pixiv. I should have it linked in the description or just in my channel somewhere, but it should be in the description of this. But yeah, I was working on that, so I was just trying to wrap it up. So I just didn't want to have to take the time to make a bunch of tutorials on top of that. But now that it is done and I'm starting some other projects, I have the time to start keeping up with tutorials again, but it's back to that sort of backlog method. So because of that, I just go a couple months really without working on these, and the result of that is that I just am never really getting better at being able to talk through stuff and make it interesting while I'm actually working on the piece. So by recording some of my game content and stuff like that, I can at least keep up with practicing it, so then hopefully my next batch of fan arts, or not necessarily fan arts, but like walkthroughs and tutorials should hopefully be at a higher quality. That is the hope, at least. So for right now, let's get this done. Again, just flicking these on and off just to make sure I'm not missing any details. Then come to my multiply, our hard shadows. I'll just shade this entire thumb area here. And then this thing is actually hanging over. It's like a lip. So we'll add that first and then figure out the shadow on this off side second. Do that. Man, sorry. Okay. There we go. Now we can add our shadow here. Kind of keeping in mind where our light source would be and where it would even be casting shadows in the first place. And then this again, kind of hanging over. So we'll add it like so, just so we can kind of visualize how this shadow is being cast, make sure it's positioned correctly, and then we can add our actual shadow here. I have it like this. Oops. Just kind of want a sharper edge here. There we go. Okay, so I think we added shadows to everything. So now I just want to add a little bit of fire brush here. Break up some of these lines. Do the same here. Kind of like where some of these shadows are, like one's being cast over the other, kind of blend it just a little bit. And then add just a tiny bit here, kind of break up some of this. Then we can soften. Okay. Only a few more layers to go. But again, just doing the same things. So, yeah, when you've got this much, like, gold and stuff, it can get kind of tedious feeling. But now this, we don't actually want a ton of shadow on, because the angle of it, kind of just flat, it's going to be catching a ton of light. So we're not going to go overboard with shadows on it. It'll probably be one of our brightest parts, truth be told. So grab this and really bring it deep into this left side, unlike our other pieces. And then we can grab the highlight and kind of stick it out here, and again give it a nice highlight since it's just catching a ton of light. And add just a little bit back here, nothing too crazy though. And then add our shadow, a little multiply layer, have just the tiniest bit. In fact, I'm even just gonna use an airbrush for it, just so it barely gets shaded. We could probably actually use the airbrush back here too. Just kind of blend it nicely, like so. Soften this a little bit. And then we will use a hard brush here, and I also realized I forgot to add our light to this one. So we'll grab this color here. We will add that right here. Nice and bright. Grab our little highlight, oops, right here. And have this just a little bit canted off of this piece above it, because this one's kind of under it, so do something like that. Then we can soften this a little bit more. Okay, so I think this is the last of the gold, and then yeah, it's the little jewels. Okay, almost done. And yeah, I'm gonna add the pyro sigil thing off the camera, because I gotta go find a reference of it and stuff, so I'll definitely have the finished picture here at the end that you can see, so you can see the process of it and the progress. Also probably make a short of this fan art. I don't know if I'm gonna do like a speed paint, and there's no reason for me to really do like a full fan art process video. Maybe I could, but I figure with the commentary, it basically would be the same thing but without words. So if you really hate my voice that much, you can just mute it. But yeah, I don't think I'll do the full fan art process video like I normally do. I'll think about the speed paint. The issue is because I've been navigating with my mouse wheel, it's just those types of videos when they're sped up that fast, and you're just doing this over and over at such rapid speeds, it is extraordinarily jarring. So probably not worth making into a speed paint, which is not really the end of the world, but I know some people seem to like them, so feel bad leaving this one out, but I'll at least make it short. Now grab this highlight, just right here at the point, a little bit here. And let's grab our multiply layer, add this, a little bit of shadow here and here, and then a fair bit right here. And we already basically shaded that one down there. So now I just got these little jewels. And I think they have little patterns in them from what I can tell, but my image is so small and kind of blurred that I don't know what the patterns are. So instead, I'm just going to basically render these like I did the eyes by just giving them sort of extreme contrasting colors with a lot of depth. So hopefully it'll look good when it's done, but we'll find out together. But yeah, I'll basically just render these just like I did the eyes. So add this. We can come in here with a light orange color. Add something like this, just kind of interesting little shapes in there. And we don't want to just mimic it up here, so we'll make it a little bit different here. Add like an edge to it. There we go. Then we can come in with a yellow just to accentuate this, kind of make it look like encased fire. It's kind of what I'm looking for. So I haven't done a walkthrough on anything with fire in it, but that's kind of the way that I make it, is with this same brush. I think the channel I got it from is Gamma Trap. I think that's the name of it. I think that's the one that has really good fire tutorials. So if you want to learn how to draw fire, I believe Gamma Trap has some really good fire ones. He's got like a candle, bonfire, like magic fire, like stuff like that. He's got a lot of different fire ones, and that's basically where I learned how to do it, because I really liked the way it looked. So I just learned from him. So grab this, like so, add our little bit of shadow here, and I'll probably even add like a little tiny glow to these. And then, oops, beneath that multiply layer we'll add our color dodge, and I'll just grab this super saturated red color and just add just a hit of it kind of in the corner. I don't want to fill the entire thing, but just add a little spot that's super, super red. So do that. Okay. Oh yes, this yellow stuff. So we just need to shade this. And it's not... Oh, and I also missed these little pieces right here, but that's fine. So we'll do that quick too. So I don't really know what material this is. It's not the gold, it's just... It's a different material. I know when we first put it in, I said I could always readjust it if it looks too jarring against the gold. So even though it's not really rendered like this in the reference images, I'm just going to kind of give it its own shine just so it kind of blends in a little bit better and isn't just a stark contrast to the gold. So I'll kind of give it its own little gloss. I'm not going to have it as shined as the gold though, so it will be a little bit different. But I don't want it to just be like flat in comparison, you know? I don't want it to be super outshone by the gold, because then it just kind of looks out of place, I'd feel. Could be wrong, but I'm just going to go with this. There we go. Oh yeah, oops, let me come in here with my airbrush and kind of have some of these a little bit softer. Just again, just trying to add a little bit of a contrast in the hardness of this. Little detail goes a long way though. And then I need to come in here with my little multiply layer. And again, this is a different angle than the face above it. So I need to capture that with how I angle my shadows. Then this will kind of brighten, not too intensely though. Although this one, because it's flattening out this way, we can really polish this. Whereas this one is just going kind of down, so we don't need quite an extreme polish. Although I do need to kind of airbrush that a little bit better so it kind of blends with the highlight beneath it. Something like that. Okay, and then I think all I want to do, what is all this? Oh yeah, this grass. We'll just do that. And then I guess I'll just add a quick highlight to it in some places. Not all. I don't want to go crazy here. What the heck? Okay, I'm on it. It's on normal. Okay, I had my eraser out, I guess. Okay, there we go. I was gonna say, I was so confused, but it was barely getting bigger. But yeah, I guess I've just picked a color just barely lighter than it, so I just wasn't really seeing what it was doing. But plus, I think yeah, this has a lowered opacity too, so it just wasn't showing up quite as much, anyways. Yeah, do something like that, and then I think just beneath it, just add a super faint sort of shadow here. Just nothing crazy though. There we go. Just to barely shade it. Okay, and then I think all I want to add now is just a little tiny glow coming off of these. So I'll do a color dodge layer and just use an airbrush and just add super tiny. I don't want it to be too extreme and too noticeable, but just a little bit of extra detail. So that's pretty much it. We're finally done. I'm just going to add the pyro sigil after the fact. Of course, the finished picture will be at the end, so just to basically show it. But hopefully some of you found this interesting. Kind of see how I work through step by step. It's not like a full-on tutorial video, but trying to remember to bring up what I'm doing, how I kind of get the textures and how I get the colors I want, you know, how I get the posing, how I make changes and edits at every step. Just hopefully it was just kind of fun, kind of interesting if you're trying to learn art, trying to get better, if you're a beginner. Hopefully you found some techniques that kind of helped simply show you how you can make little changes to elevate your art. But yeah, it's been fun. I did enjoy it. If for whatever reason people like these types of videos enough, then I'll gladly make more of these sort of walkthroughs in the future. My plan is to maybe do one per fan art batch, but if it just turns out that nobody really cares about these types of videos, then I probably just won't take the time to do them, because it does almost double how long it takes me to get these done. But either way, don't want to take up too much more of your time, so thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. See ya.